Okay, so welcome. I'm Catherine. I'm one of the PFF fellows here at CGU. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about academic integrity and how that is changing in the online space. So just a few guidelines for the webinar. Keep your audio muted unless you are speaking. Your video is welcome, but it's not required. If you have questions or if something comes up, for technical issues, use the chat. The plan is to have a Q&A session at the end. But if you have a question that comes into your mind as we're working through the material, you're welcome to put it in the chat, and then at the end, we'll answer your questions. So it should take about half an hour. I thought I'd leave a nice chunk for questions because there's a lot going on with the online space and academic integrity and cheating and whatnot. Oh, my subtitles. So we've got a couple of essential questions that we want to answer. So first, can a proactive approach foster accountability, honesty, and integrity? I think if we start with that line of thinking, it helps us shape the way we structure our courses, how we deal with our students, what methods of assessment we'll be using. Another question, how can we disincentivize cheating in an online environment? So I want to focus on disincentivize rather than catch cheating or stop cheating or catch students cheating. I like to take a different approach. So some of the topics we'll be working through, think about some factors that interfere with academic integrity, talk about technological issues, which are the non-proactive, and talk about proactive approaches that we can use to develop classroom culture or course design, and some strategies that you can employ for your classes. So first, I think it is helpful to think about why students resort to cheating. It is my belief that students don't go into a class thinking, how can I cheat my way through this whole entire semester? I will say that I'm sure there are a couple out there every class, but for me, I don't want to penalize the rest of the class simply because there might be a couple of students who end up doing their work in this way. So some of the factors that affect academic integrity, inexperience with time management. They're just simply not understanding how to manage their time properly. Sometimes there's external pressures for work or family, or maybe they have health issues or health conditions they need to attend to. Often they have varying skill levels or different education experiences. If they're coming from a different system of education, if they've learned to work through their material in a different way, sometimes that will affect how they engage with integrity. Sometimes they just don't have the same level of preparation as other students have, or what the expectation is for the course. There's also fear of failure. Students don't want to fail. Sometimes they don't have a support system or a network to support them and answer questions and to guide them or navigate them through the college system. Sometimes a student is the first in their family to go to college, and it's very difficult to make those connections and build those networks and ask for help. And then finally, the use of or access to technology, especially now, Wi-Fi isn't stable. Even now, as I'm presenting this, I keep getting messages that my connection's not stable. So this happens for students as well. All right, so let's address the big question about technology, or the thing that people want to know about the most. What about this technology that we're going to use to stop cheating? So I like this quote, right? Cheating is not a technological problem, but a social and pedagogical problem. Technology is often blamed for creating the conditions in which cheating proliferates and is then offered as the solution to the problem it created. Both claims are false. So as this quotation tells us, it's very circular sort of way of dealing with academic integrity. And Shay Swagger works for the University of Colorado, Denver. He's an academic librarian and researcher who has written quite a bit about EdTech and had some great information, points to some really great resources. And at the end of the presentation, I've got a list of resources that you can explore if you are interested. When we're talking about technology, often it's these things that we're using. Turnitin, Safe Assign, Respond to this, Proctorio, Proctorio, Examine, Honor Lock. And I know there are different variations for all of those. Some schools I hear are requiring their instructors to use it. Other schools leave it up to the professor. So wherever you land in that, I hope that through this conversation we are going to have about technology and how it affects academic integrity, it will at least leave you with an idea for some options if you are in a middle space and you're undecided, perhaps, or skeptical. So let's talk about online proctoring. There's a student out of the University of Dallas who was writing for his university newspaper. He is a computer science student. So this is what he examines on a regular basis. And this is his opinion. Proctorio, in essence, is spyware cloaked under the guise of being an educational tool. So he's pointing to this issue that it is spyware, it's surveillance, and it's very invasive. And in his article, he lists all the permissions that Proctorio wants when students use the program. So I went to their website and I just grabbed a screenshot of what Proctorio will be doing when a student takes an exam. And it was a little troubling to me because I didn't think it through. But it's, it says during the exam, they can read and change all your data on the websites you visit, capture the content of your screen, manage your downloads, identify storage devices, manage your apps. So in essence, it's taking over your computer as you are taking this exam. And it's recording movements, eye movements, if you're talking to someone, if there are other noises in the background. Students have been asked to record their surroundings, and some students have been failed because they move too much or they're looking around. And I don't know about you, you might already notice that I am always moving. So if I were to take an exam and thinking, I think I would do this number like, let me think about that, and then I'd fail. So that would not be good for me. So thankfully I don't have to engage in this. But this brings up another issue about bias, right? These educational tools in technology have some issues, right? They aren't perfect. We have facial recognition software, biometrics, algorithms, and it intersects with this problem with racism, sexism, ableism, transphobia. It cannot always detect when there are too many differences. It will register as something suspicious. So if your skin tone doesn't square with whatever the algorithm is, it might not allow you to access the exam, which has already happened. It might flag something as suspicious. If you are, if you've got a disability and you've got to move around or you have to get up or adjust your seating position, it might flag it. Also, people have health issues, physical or mental or whatever is going on that might prevent them from just sitting in front of the camera, taking an exam and not making any odd movements according to the algorithm. There's also economics. Not every student has that nice quiet space in the room to really focus, especially now with the pandemic and people are at home a lot. And it also brings up Title IX issues. What about the working parents? What about the mom who has to feed her child, or who's got a toddler that's going to interrupt? And it also brings in issues about family, right? You can't control, if you've got a house full of people, it's not always possible to control everyone at the exact time when you're taking the exam. And so it puts students at a disadvantage if they don't have great lighting, great camera, if they, have the same look as whoever created the program. If that program was calibrated by one specific group, it's set to recognize that. So if your skin tone is different, if the shape of your face is different, if your hair is different, these could all present problems. And, there's a man by the name of Leonard Davis who speaks about the eugenic eugenic gaze. And it's that sense that there is a preferred body type, a preferred behavior type that is selected basically as the norm. And if you aren't of that norm, it could present problems for you, especially when it comes to algorithms and facial recognition and Title IX protections. So here are some responses to the problems associated with facial recognition technology. UC Berkeley is just straight up banned it. They're not using Proctorio or any other such methods for testing. There's also a bill going through Congress right now asking for limits or bans on facial recognition and biometric technology at the federal level. And there's a website, banfacialrecognition.com, and it's campuses that are banding together to work out a plan or find a way to mitigate the extensive use of facial recognition on campus. And then ACLU and the Cato Institute are also looking at this problem when it comes to things like civil rights, law enforcement, identification in the general population. So we've already got discussion, yes, on campus and outside of campus about the problems that are coming up. And here's my friend Shay with another quote. There's so much that Shay has written that I thought, oh, I love this, and I love what he had to say about that. So here's another one. Technology isn't neutral or objective. It didn't cause cheating, and it ultimately won't stop it. It is, however, able to encode and amplify discriminatory beliefs and cast them into invisible and powerful systems that can harmfully impact our choices and our bodies. And I really like that quotation because, technology isn't the solution for everything. Cheating existed even before technology. It's going to continue. And as I'm sure you can already guess, for everything that we implement, somebody will find a way ultimately around it. We have hackers that have found their way into all sorts of avenues of technology. And so I think technology isn't always the answer for this issue of academic integrity. So now what? How can we disincentivize cheating? So for me, it's to take away that temptation, take away this idea like, oh no, I don't want to fail, and I better just cheat. Just so I make sure I get the grade. So let's take a look at what we can do in our classroom to help our students feel good about not cheating and being attentive to academic integrity. So clearly I like alliteration. And I thought to myself later, I'm all, hey, 5 C's. I didn't even realize I did that. So classroom culture, we're talking about clarity, community, connection. And when you've got that as part of your classroom environment, it helps to disincentivize cheating. So let's see how that works. When we're talking about clarity, that will help your students develop a sense of accountability for their work. And from the teacher's side, it's establishing those prerequisites, making sure they understand the skills they're going to need for the class and what they'll need to demonstrate in your class. Being clear about how much time they should plan for their assignments, even if it's a rough estimate. There are times I've assigned a reading and it looks very short, but I know it's very dense. And I will give them that information like, hey, that reading is short. So you might, but it's pretty dense. So you're going to need to read it maybe a couple of times. So give yourself extra time. And usually they'll come back and say, oh my God, you were trying to read it before class. I'm like, I told you. And then they believe me. It just has to happen one time. And then they go, aha, she's not kidding. Also, have a conversation about how to be successful in your class. What kinds of behaviors lead to success in your class? And also help them understand those distinctions between falling behind and not understanding the material. Very often students don't realize that there is that distinction. And if they fall behind, they think, well, maybe I can't pass the class. I'm going to fall so far behind. And sometimes it's just a matter of thinking about like, okay, why did you fall behind? Was it time management? Did you not understand this piece? Let's focus on that. And then we can keep moving. The next thing, community. I know in the online space, this can be very difficult, but I think we'll try. That's the students see that and appreciate it. And the biggest thing for me when it comes to honesty and students is the idea that of being seen and heard. When students feel that they are part of the community, and this is not just for the classroom, this is, roles of social work and sociology as well. When students feel that they are seen, they are heard, they're part of the community, it's less likely that they'll be dishonest. Building community between students and teachers is helpful, and it can just be 5 minutes a day. How's it going out there? Put something in the chat. It's interesting that they will answer those questions like, hey, what did you do this weekend? Or, random things. What's your favorite color? What's the best Greek restaurant in the area? Something. Also building groups and teams where they can get to know each other, they can work together, and they can even talk to each other if they are struggling. That all helps build community. The informal conversations, offering them resources, not just for academics, but off campus as well. And then again, helping them understand how to ask for help. What do you say? Who do you ask? When do you ask for help? I always encourage my students to ask for help early on and not wait until the end of the semester when they're starting to see that their grade is not panning out. So the sooner they can understand how to do these things, the better it is for them. They build community, and they have a higher chance of avoiding that temptation to cheat. And then finally, and these all overlap, right? So making those connections when they feel connected to you, to the class, that helps build integrity. And it's a matter of trust and how they think their classmates are viewing them and how you're viewing them. If you're caring for their well-being, right now with the fires, I'm always asking my students, how's it going? Please talk to me. If you need to evacuate, we'll figure out deadlines, we'll figure something out. It goes a long way when they realize that you do care for their well-being and that you do support their academic success. And when you start building that trust and helping them understand that they can do things for themselves, that's when the integrity starts to build, right? Especially when there's a sense of self-efficacy within the student, when they feel like they can solve their own problems by finding their resources, using their resources, asking for help. This helps build their integrity. Another way to disincentivize cheating is through course design and how you manage your material for the course. Using formative summative assessments and scaffolding multimodal tasks and assignments, it lets them be successful. And when they can see that they're successful in some way, that goes a long way into, again, building their self-efficacy and realizing, yes, I know how to learn this, I can learn this, and understanding through self-assessments or assignments where they have to evaluate themselves. That kind of work also helps them take ownership of their learning. And as an instructor, I am always transparent with what I'm doing in the classroom. So I will explain to them, hey, this work and this work will build towards this. So if you complete these tasks, you will be successful here. For some reason, they don't always see that. They just think, oh, I'm just going to complete the tasks and move on. But once they start understanding how it all fits together, it's related to this idea of systems thinking and systems design. So once they realize how the system works and how all the pieces fit together, it helps disincentivize that cheating aspect. The next thing for your course, if you can fit in just minor check-ins or mini conferences, meetings that are task related. If you're using mini conferences, even just for 5 minutes, have them bring one question about the material that they're working on, or bring in one piece of feedback that they want more clarity on, or one concept that was challenging. So if you set it up so that your expectation is they're going to come in and talk to you about what they're working on, it makes them seen, it makes them connect, and it disincentivizes cheating. I think when I started doing that, I found that I got more original work in my class. I teach writing, and they were more interested in making sure that their work and their ideas were clear, not just, hey, how many points? It was, I want to make sure I said this right. I want to make sure what I'm saying is clear. So for me, that made a huge difference. And also fitting in those safety nets. What about late work? Can they turn in late work? Allowing it with some type of deduction. Can they revise their work? What happens if they miss an exam? So I think just by thinking about that and coming up with options that work for both you and the students, it goes a long way to help cut down on this temptation to cheat. Assignments, if you are asking them to submit personal reflections or some sort of description of how they worked through the material or how they understand the concept, it also keeps that accountability, and you can see, like, okay, it really is them. This is what they're struggling with. If they're writing a personal reflection, or if they're giving you very limited commentary, and then all of a sudden they have this beautifully done assignment that's almost perfect, that's when you can start thinking like, uh-oh, I think there might be a little problem here. You can also scaffold using these benchmarks or milestone tasks so that they can see that their skills are building. And when you can help them see that they are getting there, that they can keep going, it will also help with this, with academic integrity. For exams and exam prep, study guides, students always like study guides. If you, as an instructor, don't want to put together study guides, I would say encourage them to form study groups, maybe even dedicate a class period or half a class period and say, okay, you're going to get into groups and you're going to start creating your own study guides. So sometimes if you just give them that space to work on this type of exam prep, that will also help, and they will learn how to help each other. Timed exams and quizzes are also good because they know they won't be able to look things up if you're not using, open book or open note. And then offering them practice exams so they can see how they do during a timed exam. Also multimodal, multi-part exams, oral exams. So you might have one part that's, online, and then follow up with an oral, just a 5-minute, 10-minute meeting to talk about their answers or give them a follow-up question. In grad school, one of my teachers did that, and it was, oh my God, it was the best midterm I ever had, because he gave us a few questions, kind of like when you're in quals. He said, prepare these 3 questions, and then when you come into the meeting, I'll pick one, you'll answer it verbally, and then I'll have a follow-up question for you. And my midterm was over in 5 minutes, and it was great. It was, by the time I started feeling anxious, it was over. So that was a bonus for me. And if it's reasonable for your course to use Open Book, Open Note, Open Web, I would say try it. It takes longer, and students will find that out if you give them a test run. Also, using higher order thinking versus multiple choice or fact-based questions, using randomized questions and answers, one question per page, using open-ended questions, also helps disincentivize cheating. And you can give them the ramp up beforehand. So maybe some practice questions. Here's what a question might look like on an exam. That's also really helpful in avoiding that temptation. And then finally, and this is what I like to think about, yes, they will master the content, they will achieve those skills, but when you're building this classroom culture and you're helping them understand how to learn, when you're helping them understand how to avoid cheating, and building that sense of integrity, there are some other outcomes that move beyond content, right? It's this idea of self-efficacy, independent learning, metacognitive skills, ownership of their learning. They're also building networks, learning how to make those connections with other students and with you, and also understanding how to use resources within the classroom, outside of the classroom, the community. I think helping students get this full experience of being a college student is helpful. There's a lot of content out there. Everything's online these days. So why not offer them something a little bit more? And then also you can help them celebrate their achievements, whether it's large or small, whether they've hit these benchmarks, rather than wait for the big assignments that have a lot of stress attached to them. I think celebrating even just those small benchmarks and where how far they've come in their learning is extremely helpful. And then final thoughts, of course, from Shay. The best thing we in higher education can do is to start with the radical idea of trusting students. Let's choose compassion over surveillance. And that's something that I really like. And I will admit, when I started teaching, I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know that I should or could trust my students. And then gradually I was finding that every semester I was just frustrated because I had to keep thinking of ways like, oh, I have to create a new rule now about this and another rule about that. And I just felt like half my class was, creating rules. And I didn't want to do that as a teacher. And so I just stopped. And I think it was the best thing that I ever did. It's a better classroom dynamic. I enjoy my job more. And I've gotten better work from that. It's more quality, it's more personal. They are interested in it. So that's what I hope we can do for our classes. And I know this is all new, everybody online. So there will be transition, there will be bumps in the road. And I think that's to be expected. Okay, so now let me shift into showing you some of the resources. And when the slides get posted after, I think it'll be a couple of weeks after this event, this will all be here for you. So tech related, we've got some great stuff out there. So, race and technology, Leonard Davis about disability and the body and technology. And there's the student at the University of Dallas talking about Proctorio. Algorithms of oppression. I haven't read all of these, but I can't wait. This is all very interesting. The article by Shay Swager, Our Bodies Encoded, is a great one if you haven't yet explored this topic. There's a lot in this particular article. And by the way, Proctorio got mad at him and responded directly to him, like, shut up, don't talk about our software like that. They were very annoyed. And this is another article by Shay Swager, Software That Monitors Students and It Perpetuates Inequality. Audrey Waters is writing on the website, interesting terminology that I'm coming across, like technological solutionism, data violence, eugenic gaze. It's all very interesting. Some other resources, just more general, this idea of academic integrity in the online class versus face-to-face. And then I thought, all right, I'll include somebody from the other side, Jared Morgan, who is the founder of Proctorio, and what he's talking about when it comes to cheating and how to stop cheating. Ohio State also has some great resources about distance learning and education on their website, as does Purdue. We've got some other webinars coming up. So how to support LGBTQ+ students in the classroom, using productive struggle to build learner persistence. That's me. Facilitating well-being in your classes, value-based teaching, understanding issues and engagement. So we've got some great webinars lined up, and also through November. And I would encourage you, if you've got the time, to come join us again. We've also got some ways to stay in touch, email. If you are on the MyCGU website, we've got our own page there. We also have the ethical pedagogy community via LinkedIn. So you can access that through our page on MyCGU. And we also have some social media options. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, I think that might, let's put a little asterisk by that one. I'm not sure if that one is up and running. I think there was an issue with that.
Yeah. Can I jump in on the Facebook?
Yes, I clicked it and I was like, wait, is this ours?
We share, so the Academic Professional Development Group is PFF, Career Development, Transdisciplinary Office, and Career Writing Center. And we share a Facebook. But right now, you are the first to know, we are launching out with our own social media. You know, for a while, we didn't have capacity, right? You start social media, you better not be just silent. But now we have someone helping us. So we have our own Twitter and our own Instagram, and Facebook might come. So do spread the word, like us, follow us, tell people, because we would love to build. The ethical pedagogy community is, again, a new group launched. We haven't even done a formal announcement yet. It's just soft launched. It's hanging out on the website. We've had one little discussion, but we really hope to have that as a network for educators, like everybody who cares about this stuff, talk to each other.
Yes, and it's also great if you're using LinkedIn and you want to build networks with other educators. It's a great place to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to end the slideshow. We're going to work on a little bit of Q&A and brainstorming, and then I'll say thank you for coming. So let me end this.